Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. On any given weekend in places throughout the country, you'll find them. People in vintage gray and blue uniforms, muzzle-loading rifles at their side, reenacting scenes from the American Civil War. For many, it's a hobby, a chance to bring alive our shared history. But for some, there is a paranormal dimension. They are reliving what they believe is a past life.
It's eerie, it's strange, and I'm not saying for sure that I am he, but I do feel that I belong in another time.
For the past 26 years, Dave Purshwitz has devoted nearly every waking hour to the preservation of Civil War history. Dave is an avid collector of photographs. He maintains a personal 800-volume Civil War library and has turned his home into a private museum.
Would you call your fascination with the Civil War period, is it a hobby? Is it more than a hobby? Is it an obsession?
Well, it started out being a hobby, and it has become more and more of an obsession.
It was his obsession that attracted the attention of psychotherapist Barbara Lane. In her book, Echoes from the Battlefield, Lane chronicles an experiment in which she hypnotized 12 Civil War reenactors, including Dave Purshwitz. Each person recalled a past life during the Civil War, remembering names and dates that were later verified as real.
It wasn't an intellectual experience, it was an emotional experience that they had. Some of them would even define it as a spiritual experience.
What drew you to these reenactments and these men?
I sensed an incredible intensity about them, an incredible draw or link to the Civil War that I thought was beyond the normal.
There must be somewhere in the neighborhood of, I would say, 20,000 people, not just in this country, but overseas as well, who feel compelled, drawn somehow, to reenact the American Civil War.
Civil War historian Brian Pohanka helped Barbara Lane verify the minute details recalled during the past life study.
The interesting thing about these hypnotic regressions, no matter what one chooses to believe, is that how vivid they were for the people who went through this. They came out somehow sobered, they came out somehow reflective, sad, really as if they had gone through these experiences.
During Dave Purshwitz's regression, he revealed himself to be James McNally, a soldier wounded during the Civil War.
I'm hurt. I'm really hurt. My whole sleeve was covered with blood.
Can you describe what you felt when she took you back through being wounded?
Well, one thing I felt was pain. I felt pain in my arm.
Some of them dead. Some of them dying. Arms. Legs. Some of the legs still have shoes on them. My arm. No, Doc. No. Can't take it off.
Later in that session, Purshwitz, believing himself to be wounded and unable to write, dictates a loving letter to his wife.
My dearest, the heaviest fighting place you ever seen. And I was hit. Bones in my arm were shattered. They had to cut off my arm. It was my left arm. Started church together again. I can still bless myself with proper healing. Your devoted husband, James McNally.
Later research revealed that there was in fact a Union soldier named James McNally who was wounded in the Battle of Piedmont. His left arm was amputated. He had a wife named Ellen. But the most amazing revelation of all was that James McNally was the great-grandfather of Dave Purshwitz.
When you started doing reenactments, did you have any idea that your great-grandfather had actually participated in the Civil War?
No, had no idea at all. I never knew that he was involved in any war at all. and my grandmother pulled out a picture at a family reunion. I almost felt like I was looking at a picture of myself.
What do you make of all of it? The fact that in this regression you came up with things that you had no previous knowledge of.
I had not believed in reincarnation before, previous to this, but I almost have to put some credence in it now. Not to say exactly that I've been reincarnated, but I really have to wonder.
Wonder about whether, in fact, you were your great-grandfather.
Yeah.
Another subject in the study, Robert Lee Hodge, has been obsessed with the Civil War since childhood. For his first grade school photo, he insisted on wearing a Civil War-style cap.
When I was 9 years old and I went to Gettysburg, the hair on the back of my neck stood up.
Hodge is a hardcore reenactor, authentic down to the thread count of his undergarments. He believes through hypnosis he found a reason for his lifelong connection to another century.
One of the first things she asked me was, "What do you see?" And the first thing that I thought of was trees. So I felt like I was an observer within somebody's mind or something. There was fighting, and there was chaotic commands given, and carnage and bloodshed. And there was fear within myself. She had asked me for a name, and the only thing that I could think of was the name Jackson. And then she asked me, can you think of a first name? And all I could think was a J, like James or John.
Rob was a match with a soldier by the name of John Jackson, 47th Alabama. And after his regression, I did go to the archives, and I did find a John Jackson, 47th Alabama.
So what you're saying, in effect, is that Dave, very likely, was his great-grandfather.
It's possible. It's entirely possible.
And that Rob was a Civil War soldier.
It could very easily be.
For those who feel compelled to relive the Civil War over and over again, Lane believes that past life regression therapy can help create a lasting and final peace.
I think that there still needs to be a tremendous amount of healing with the Civil War. It was a terrible thing for our country where brother fought brother. It was terribly emotional. And I think that this is one possible way of perhaps healing.
Barbara Lane is now expanding her research into other historical reenactment groups. She's begun working with medieval reenactment societies to determine if they, too, may be reliving past lives.
Next, how the CIA used psychics. Later, new cattle mutilations in California. And a UFO explodes over Las Vegas.